Eddie. Eddie, I'm a popcorn bucket, Eddie. Delicious!
October, 10 movies, here we go. Nope, nothing beating out Joker 2 for the worst of October. May I say, there are worse films than Joker 2 in 2024, but not by a lot. Joker 2 is in fact a really terrible sequel following Arthur, reprised by Joaquin Phoenix, on trial for like 20 murders. Not that he cares, he's getting laid. Harley Quinn, played by Lady Gaga. Oh, sorry, Harley. It's never officially said she's Harley Quinn. She's Harley Quinn. She wants to help Joker see his full potential as the persona, but the people want him dead for the murders. Oh, and it's a musical. Oh, I'm sorry, was that an important factor of the film? Sure, but the trailer sure didn't do anything to make sure you knew that. Not that the musical numbers are worth a damn, most of them are either too long to keep you engaged in what's happening, have nothing to do with the story, or are too short to be relevant. And man, everyone is terrible in this. Minus Phoenix, he was actually really good. Like in the first film, he was able to keep the more tragic side of the character around while playing into the stuff that made Heath Ledger so great. I still think Ledger's the better of the two, but I never minded Phoenix in the role. And the film is just so tone deaf. Like, the first film was able to seamlessly utilize dark moments that worked to add character to this Joker. The scene where Arthur kills Murray is dark and uncomfortable because you know Arthur's gonna do something. Here, he just gets graped. Oh yeah, that's a real scene. I mean, they don't show it, but they hint at it. It's like any form of tone that the first film had was completely lacking for this film. The story and pacing are so bad, and it seems like the callbacks are all just so jarring, like they play That's Life twice at the beginning and a cover at the end, because the end of the first film played it too. Did I mention the director is the guy behind the Hangover trilogy? I just love confirming that Todd Phillips in fact sucks at sequels. I love the first Joker, but this one comes off as completely dull and definitely up there as one of the worst sequels of 2024. Salem's Lot on Max. Yeah, that's it. Man, here's the thing about Don't Move. The concept behind it is really good. A serial killer injects a woman with a parasite that eventually will shut her body down, and she must fight for survival. Now you're probably wondering, what happened? The red N at the beginning of the movie. Don't Move sadly was a Netflix original, and while they've had some good originals in the past, and even on this list alone, it seems they are 50-50 when it comes to the actual quality of their stuff. And such, the concept is cool, but in execution, it's dull and slow. It feels like there are good things in this film, but they don't really come to light. I didn't hate it, I just wanted more out of it.
Eddie, this guy's gonna be a dick.
Okay, so for all the flaws, I like the Venom movies. The first film for 2018 was clunky, but fun. I couldn't get over how good Venom looked. Man, 11 years ago, this was the movie Venom we had, and now we had this. It shows how over a decade of visual effects enhancements can really do a film wonders. The second one, I'll admit, I think is the worst of the trilogy. I thought Carnage was cool, but the story was jumbled and the pacing was just really bad. Like, I specifically remember that one had some pretty bad pacing. And then we have this movie, the epic conclusion. Eddie, once again, played by Tom Hardy, is a fugitive on the run for the murder of Detective Mulligan. Of course, accompanied by Venom, the symbiote who's been with him for a while now, also voiced by Hardy. It turns out Venom's creator is wanting to become free and destroy the world, so Eddie and Venom must work together to stop them alongside fighting special forces, specifically Captain Strickland, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. Wait, if he's Strickland here, how is he also Mordo in the MCU? They're different universes and most of these suck anyway, so it's fine. So a big issue I picked up on outside of the obvious with pacing was a lot of the acting. Outside of Tom Hardy, which I'm going to go ahead and get my hot take out here, I think this is genuinely one of Hardy's best performances in years. I haven't watched The Bike Riders yet, so keep that in mind. But all the other actors are either way too bland like Juno Temple or over the top like Chiwetel Ejiofor. It creates such a stark dynamic that makes the film jarring at times. I'm also going to add to the dog pile on this movie's ending, but for a different reason. A lot of people don't like it because they think it's a terrible, bittersweet ending. Without giving too much away, Eddie ends up in New York, and you think that sets up for Venom to be in the next Tom Holland Spider-Man. But the film itself showcases why that's not going to happen. So why put someone like Eddie Brock, a no-name in Spider-Man lore, in New York where Spider-Man very much is, as we see at the end of No Way Home, if you can't set up that he will be seen with Venom? It just bugged me, and speaking of bugging me, the film's villain is such a nothing threat that yes, you could argue is more of a looming threat that they have to stop, but this villain is barely in the movie, and instead we get this alien Romulus reject. The biggest highlight, of course, is Eddie and Venom. A Alongside this weird hippie family they come across, it kind of reminds me of the awkward foster family in Shazam. You cringe at them, but it's kind of hard to hate them. Like, here's the thing. 65% of the movie is okay, if not really good. And I wanted to like more of it because I don't hate these movies. Until Kraven the Hunter comes out and I can confirm for sure, these movies are the highlights in Sony's god-awful universe of movies. I don't know, I didn't hate this movie, but it definitely shows its flaws. I'll be honest, since my first year ranking was in 2022, 2 movies this year had the most pressure on them. The first was The Fall Guy, which is from director David Leitch, whose last movie, Bullet Train, was number 2 on my list. And the other was Smile 2, the sequel to the first Smile, which I remember was in the top 10 of that list. While my thoughts on The Fall Guy remain to be seen, Smile 2 didn't live up to the hype for me. But that doesn't mean I didn't like it, I just didn't like it as much as the first. And it seems I might be in the minority there. Okay, so we have the Smile curse back, and this time it's haunting this pop star named Sky Riley, played by Naomi Scott. She witnesses someone kill themselves over the curse, and she starts to see it everywhere herself. So my biggest pet peeve is that the original was led by Sosie Bacon, who wasn't quite the big name in 2022, and it gave her a shot to shine. Here, it's Naomi Scott. She was in a damn Disney movie, for God's sake. It sucks because she's a good actress, but why not keep it going and maybe give a new name a shot? I think that would be a really cool, unique thing that the series could do. She's not terrible here, she's just kinda average. I also thought maybe they could have spiced things up a bit. I mean, it's a sequel, do something different. I got the bare minimum of what I wanted out of a Smile sequel, but I wanted so much more. But the scares are still there, I think most of the acting is good, and I guess if you love the first film, I can say I like this one fine, and I hear a lot of people like it more than the first. I'm not in that group, but I like this one alright. I'll be honest, I had never watched the Terrifier films until this movie was coming out, and I decided to binge them all. Big mistake! I am not a constant horror movie watcher, so I don't really get conditioned to blood and gore in films, even if it's fake. And God, getting through Terrifier 2 alone was a challenge. Both Terrifier 3, while just as balls to the wall gory as the second film, I guess I really conditioned myself because after the opening scene, not much got to me this time. But that definitely doesn't discard this movie because I still enjoyed it. It's a good film for Halloween, and as a guy who knows a bunch of weirdos who like this shit, like the guy who runs the 13th podcast, seriously, check them out, I know they'll get their kicks. And honestly, this seems like a beautiful send-off to all those slasher films from the 80s. And as a non-horror advocate myself, I found it a small highlight of the year we've had in horror movies. Piece by Piece is a ballsy-ass Lego movie, man. So instead of it being an original film or based on a pre-existing Lego property this time, we're looking at the life of superstar Despicable Me music maker Pharrell Williams. This movie really opened my eyes to how influential this man has been on music. There's a lot of songs that I had no idea he had a hand in. JT music, Kendrick Lamar music, Busta Rhymes. It really is cool to see his additions to the industry. On top of that, remember how I said in my biopics video that all the biopics that are coming out nowadays seem the same? I didn't really account for this movie. This is a strange yet weirdly in character biopic for Pharrell and his character. Also, I don't know a lot of Lego properties that have the balls to say shit twice, but honestly, good for them. Actually, I'll just say, kids more than likely won't like this one as much as previous Lego movies, and that's because of one simple thing. It's not as flashy as the others. Oh, don't get me wrong, some of this animation is gorgeous, but the story won't keep kids entertained as, say, the Lego movie or the Lego Batman movie did. But it's still a good take on biopics, and honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing other biopics taking a unique approach. Personally, if I ever got my own biopic, I'd use Mega Bloks in them. Them shits hit! Eddie, you're poor! My name's not Eddie. Taking our bronze medal this month is Conclave. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I wasn't expecting to see this film this month, mostly because I thought it was gonna come out in November, but also, it didn't seem like a film I would enjoy. But the day before I saw Venom 3, I ended up checking this one out, shout out to AMC A-List, and I found this to be pretty dang good. Not a top tier film of the year, but I think it's fine. The story is pretty cool, they surprisingly do a lot on the PG scale. Oh yeah, the film about a pope dying and somebody having to replace him is rated the same as f***ing Frozen. Oh, I get it, it's PG because parents need to guide their kids away from the soundtrack. I don't know, not much on my end, but I enjoyed it, kept me invested. And Ralph Fiennes is Ralph Fine, baby. Can you believe he's 61? And I wonder why people think I'm weird. Taking silver this month is Netflix and mostly Anna Kendrick's Woman of the Hour. Yeah, I know I was just insulting Netflix for them simply existing, but occasionally you do get an interesting and unique experience, and that's what Woman of the Hour is. Telling the true story of how Anna Kendrick's Cheryl Bradshaw paired up with the real-life serial killer Rodney Alcaca on the dating game. I found it funny that in real life, Bradshaw denied going on the date because she found Alcaca creepy. Damn right he was, girl! Now I'll go ahead and get my biggest pet peeve out of the way first. This film has some serious pacing issues. I don't know what it was. It wasn't as jarring as Joker's, but you could definitely tell some things were rushed. This is the first time a film could have benefited from more time. It only clocks in about an hour 30 when an extra 30 minutes really could have helped. Also, I'm pissed I can compare any other performance in a 2024 film to Josh Hartnett in Trap. How did anyone think this guy wasn't a serial killer? Seriously, why is that a trend? But I think the film is really good at being uncomfortable. Not scary, but uncomfortable. And Anna Kendrick really gives it her all. Though I couldn't stop thinking how funny it would be if the music from other Anna Kendrick projects seeped their way into this.
Wait, you're a serial killer? I paired up with a serial killer on the dating game?
But seriously, one of Netflix's best this year personally, a definite must-watch.
I'm truly the woman of the hour. Say that again?
I got my ticket for the long way.
Yeah, so I did a whole video on SNL for this movie, and thankfully it didn't disappoint. Taking the gold for October is Saturday Night. Man, this was unbelievably fun. While it doesn't quite reach the top like The Wild Robot or any of my favorites of the year, I still had an unbelievable fun time with it. See, director Jason Reitman described this as a comedy thriller, and yeah, I'd say that's what it is. It always was insane to me how good of actors they got for these specific roles. You would have to drag me out of the theater in a straitjacket if you told me right then and there that's Dylan O'Brien as Dan Aykroyd. We got a fucking Maze Runner up in here. The story is told pretty damn well, and a lot of it is set up good too. Occasionally a scene or a joke doesn't really work, but for my money, this is the top of the month.
Oh, Eddie, I'm going to suck your haha peanuts. Video's over!